Welcome to our session on functions. Today in our class we are going to discuss different concept of a function, the need, benefits of function, and different types of functions. We'll understand the structure of a function, parts of a function's definition, how to define a function, that means what is a parameter or argument, how to pass parameters, how to pass different types of parameters like string, list, tuples, dictionaries, etc. What are the different types of parameters like default, positional, keyword, actual, formal, etc. Understand how to return values from a function. Understand how to use a function or call a function. Understand the concept of mutable and immutable properties of data objects passed to a function. Understand various scope rules of variables like local and global, and then discuss various built-in functions like mathematical and string functions. So let us first look at the need for which a function will be used in a program. So we can get it by discussing the benefits that a function provides. Now, a function modularizes a program. That means it breaks down the program into smaller units. We know that any large problem can be solved easily by breaking it into smaller parts or units. So in this way, function makes it more easier to manage the large program, makes it more understandable and readable. This in turn also reduces the complexity of the program because it is easier to handle a small part at a time than to handle the entire program. Since function breaks the program into smaller units, so it becomes easier to manage the program. Also, function helps in making debugging easier. That means when we are trying to identify errors in a small part, it is easier to detect it and to rectify the bugs or errors instead of finding it in the entire large program. So modularization in turn also makes debugging easier. Another most important benefit of function is reusability of code. Sometimes we need some tasks to be repeated over and over again in a program. So such repeated tasks or tasks which are commonly required, they may be defined as function so that they can be used whenever required instead of writing the code again. Reusability in turn has many benefits, like it not only reduces the code, it also reduces the development time and hence the development cost. So from this, what we conclude is we can use function to manage our program in a better way, and for doing the repeatedly or repeatedly required task or commonly required task in our program by defining functions. Let us now come to the definition of function. That means we should know what is a function. So we can say a function is an independent unit of a program, or it is a subprogram or a subroutine which is basically used for performing some single related action or task or function. A function, to do this task, it may receive some data known as arguments or parameters. It performs the functionality or the task for which it is defined using those parameters, and it may return a result. Now, as we have already discussed, commonly required or repeatedly done task may be defined as a function so that instead of writing the code for different sets of input, a function may be used. Now, let us have a look at the different types of functions. Basically, all the programming languages, they provide a predefined set of functions to be used in our program directly. Sometimes we have to use some modules to use a particular type of function. So in Python, there are several functions for which we do not get to import or use any module, like type, len, id. All these, they do not require any module to be imported. Similarly, there are some functions like mathematical functions for which we have to import the math module. So we will be discussing about different types of built-in functions later on. The second category is user-defined functions. Now, user-defined functions, as the name suggests, it is defined by the user as per their need or requirement for doing the specific task. In this session, we will be discussing about user-defined functions. Now, structure of a Python program, Python function. In fact, we have already know how to write programs. We will discuss here how to define a function, or what a function definition look like. Let us first have a look at this. This is what the code or structure of a function. So a function block begins with the keyword def. This keyword def should be in lowercase, as Python is case sensitive and def is a keyword. This is followed by the function name and a pair of parentheses. This is followed by the colon. Now, we can have the input data within this parenthesis, that is known as parameter list or argument list. A function may or may not have any parameter. Then after the colon, the function body starts. The code which is written to do the particular task, that is known as function's body, and this should be indented. Indentation marks a block of code. So the Python function body, that is a block of code, and they should be indented as per rule. We may have an optional doc string as the first statement of the function to describe its purpose, to describe the different variables used, and so on. A function may return some result, and in that case that should be done using a return statement. If it is not returning any value, then by default Python function returns the legal none value. So this is how a function look like, and here is an example. See, this is def keyword, then the function name, then the parameters, which is optional. This first line of the function definition is known as the function header. Then whatever we have inside the function, whatever code we have inside the function, that is called the function's body, and we may return some result from the function. Now, this is one of the example. This function is a very simple one, having only one statement, print statement in the body, which is displaying good morning, and it is beginning with the keyword def. The name of the function is greet, then there is a pair of parentheses, and then this colon, which marks beginning of the block. So we have already discussed this. So let us move to our next slide. Simply defining a function does not indicate it is used. To use it, we have to call it or invoke it. That means a function gets executed only when it is invoked or called. A function can be called or invoked by using the function's name and passing the values of the parameters that appears in the function's header. For example, let us look at this sum function. This sum function, what it is doing, it is trying to add two numbers a and b. So the function definition is def, then sum, then a comma b, and simply we in the function body we are returning the result of a and b. Now to use this function, we may have a function call statement like this. We are calling the function by passing the two values for a and b, 5 and 10. 5 will be passed to a, 10 will be passed to b. The sum a plus b will be calculated, which will be written and stored in S. Now this is the function's call statement. Once we have defined a function, it can be used any number of times. So we'll see some examples in the next class.